First story. My fiancé cheated with our best friends who are married in a threesome. This is a very complicated, awful and agonizing experience, and I'm breaking at the seams dealing with this. About 3 months ago in May, our best friend asked me to photograph their wedding. It was on a cruise and I happily agreed to do so. I paid for my fiancé and we had a great time, sort of. On the wedding day of the cruise, my fiancé started talking to the groom's brother in a rather flirtatious way. It was brought to my attention by the groom's now wife, and it felt very off for me then. I'm 38. I'm gonna give these people names. 2 ex-best friends who got married. We'll call the groom Jack, 28M, and the bride Mary, 23F. The brother can be Franklin, 29M, and my ex-fiancée Lucy, 43F. On one of the nights, when me and my fiancée were going to bed, we'd had a few drinks and hung out with Franklin. She said she wasn't really tired, and I said, well, I'm going to bed anyway, and sort of expected her to come. She didn't. She stayed awake with Franklin. I started breaking down, wondering what they were doing, and confided in my best friends. We went and looked for them, and it turns out they were supposedly playing Scrabble for a while before heading off to bed. My fiancé didn't go to bed straight away though, and I was obviously in my best friend's room. Obviously this built a lot of trust, as I was being vulnerable with them and trusting in them to help me through this. Fast forward a few weeks, I had suspicion that she was still talking to Franklin, and so I did the lesser evil in this scenario of looking through her phone. I had asked her if anything was going on a few times, to which she denied. I caught them both texting constantly prior the wedding, and he texting her flirtatiously escalated to sexually. Eventually he asked she for nude and video sex. She was also reciprocating a lot of the time. This was eating away at me for weeks, but obviously I was trying to hold on and repair the trust that had clearly been done. I told them to stop talking, sent him a message, at which now was too nice. He replied and then deleted his profile. I cannot contact him anymore. Oh, before the wedding also my fiancée was out on the hen night, and kissed Franklin that night too. She went and confided in Jack, and said to me that she didn't remember. I only found out a week after, and I think she only told me in hindsight because other sources would have told me. Now this is where it gets really ducking bad. Like dreadfully, painfully bad. My mental health had obviously been all over the place at the minute, and my fiancé was planning on moving to London. So obviously I've had that to deal with too. This was when I felt like I had more trust in her. Anyway, fast forward to about a week ago. There was Taylor's concert in London, and the bride and groom were going to it as their honeymoon, and my fiancé decided to go along with them. She stayed in the same room with them, and while they went to the concert was also exploring London. Seems relatively normal at first glance, sort of. They had a few drinks on the last night, as far as I know, and then came back. When they came back, I had 2 days meeting with the best friends, and also my fiancé within a space of a week. We laughed and talked about things and had a generally good time. About 3 days ago I had a job in Devon, and me and my fiancé were on rocky terms, because once again she'd decided to go to London to see Noah Kahan, which I couldn't go to because I had work. She still decided to go, and stayed in a hostel to cut costs. About 2 days before that we went for a meal, and she couldn't afford to pay, so I happily paid as well, which is another kick in the teeth. While I was in Devon, my mental health was absolutely destroyed, to the point where I was outside at 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and felt so overwhelmed and scared that I ran. I just ran and ran until I could tire myself out so I could go to sleep when I got in bed, because lately all I do is think. I was in the middle of nowhere. Everything was black and dark, and I just broke down. I felt so alone and scared and overwhelmed and sad and depressed, and I was on the verge of the worst thoughts possible. I needed someone. I needed to speak to my fiancée Lucy. I phoned her 4 times. She didn't answer, but replied via message, seeming rather disinterested and uncaring. She then eventually answered and I found out she was with Jack and Mary. I hung up and phoned Mary. Mary helped me through it. I calmed down so much and had so much trust in her, thinking that I could count on her in my worst times. A day later, after an 8-hour drive back, bad traffic, I went round to Mary's and Jack's house to tell them how thankful I am and that she saved me. I got them snacks as a thank you too. Jack left to go to the shop and was acting weird, and Mary, the person who I trusted, told me the worst possible news I could hear. There was a threesome in London with my fiancé. I was distraught. I literally couldn't process what was going on. She then said there was another last night. While I was in the midst of my breakdown, I was devastated. It has destroyed me completely, especially after being with my fiancé for nearly 6 years. I'm struggling to come to terms with it all. When I try to sleep, I think of Jack and my fiancé in bed, and then Mary doing whatever the duck to my fiancé too. I can't sleep. The 3 people I trusted most, who I cared for most, destroyed every ounce of trust and love. That night I found out. I messaged a close friend and stayed at their place. I got no sleep that night. Forward to today, I had work, broke down to my sister, and have been bedbound for about 20 hours. I don't see how I can trust anyone ever again. I don't even see how I can get over this. I thought I was already at my lowest point when I went to my best friends to comfort me. I didn't think it could get lower. I have never felt so alone and low. The fact that I'd opened up to my best friends about everything, including his brother, and then he goes and does that, I just can't wrap my head around it. This is the worst feeling possible. The fact that they were doing a 3-way while I was so mentally vulnerable, I'm at a loss for everything. I don't know what to do. I am doing very slightly better now, but only while distracted. I'm scared of how fast things are going to change with those 3. I've already decided to cut off my best friends. I just feel like I want answers from my fiancé, but I don't think I could even see her or look her in the eyes anymore. But I'm so sad and miss her too. It's so bizarre. Why do I still care after all 3 of them showed they don't? It's such a messed up situation. I feel like my mind is so messed up now too. I don't know how to feel. I just want to feel happy again and not feel so worthless and betrayed. I want to forget everything. I don't know what to do. Second story. Fiancé of 8 years that is obsessively in love with me cheats and ends it with no reason. So I've been dating this girl for 6 years, engaged for 2. We live together, share bank accounts, planned our future kids, wedding, rings, etc., etc. Throughout our relationship I have solely been the breadwinner as she can't hold down a job, which I didn't mind because I loved her and she was super in love with me. Like crazy, she would keep my toenails in a jar that she sucked and nibbled off. After an operation I had, she keep a piece of my flesh and proceeded to eat it. She tried to eat it in front of me in the hospital, and I made her stop, and the next day she lost. We all know she ate it, and many more like that, but I don't want to bore you. Anyway, her parents were in some financial distress as usual with their drinking and smoking addiction they can't afford, but her dad decided he didn't want to work anymore, borrowing $10,000 from other siblings for missed mortgage payments that just went on booze and cigarettes and the rest. I helped out with money and cigarettes once in a while, but I am already support their daughter. After setting some financial goals with my at the time fiancé, she decides if she gets a job we can reach our goals a lot early. So I wrote her a CV and away she goes. I have in the past gotten her every job she has ever had after she picks, and this time she chose deep sea fishing. Away on the sea for 3 months. Now I really asked her if this is what she wants and she assures me it is. So after $3,000 of expenses in flights, clothes and everything else, she is off. Calling me 3 times a day, talking heaps at the start as she is surrounded by strangers. I help her feel more settled. Later, she is feeling more a part of the team and calls once a day, which I think is normal. After 2 months she goes quiet. not answering calls or calling for 2 days, and normally she calls me non-stop. If I miss a call, she proceeds to call me on every app and number. Normally I miss cause I'm in the bathroom and my phone's on charge after work. But don't think much, as she is probably making friends, etc., etc. Thus is when a bookshelf of a text comes in. She says we are done. I feel trapped in this relationship and it's all your fault, etc., etc. I would just like to state that she was the only one putting on the pressure for kids' wedding. All the things that would make you feel trapped before and literally last week, which I was for but just not pushing. I had to read the message about 20 times cause I couldn't believe it. I call her via video, and she was so cold towards me, like I was a stranger that had extremely wronged her. I said, I don't know who this is, but I would like to speak to my loving fiancé. Before my eyes she snapped back, and we had a civil conversation where I made her laugh as usual. Then she said that she is done. Obviously I wanted more info, as she was begging to get married as soon as she got back. She said, I just don't love you anymore, and turned her head, and on her neck I saw a hickey, which is obvious. I pressed her on it and she said she is in love. Now this hit hard. So confused and hurt I hung up. This is the girl that had decided to build a relationship through Christ and have a baptism upcoming, and wanted me to join her. We had decided this trip would assist us in her goal of waiting until marriage as well. To do a full 180 and have sex with almost a complete stranger, purposefully, and kick me to the curb. Now I don't think I'm model material, but I'm 6'1", good build and naturally tanned. She was trying to get me to do model shoots, but I am too shy for that. This is where it gets messed up. I sent her well write out letter. Because we were also best friends, we would do everything together, like everything. So in the letter I was pouring my heart out and just asking if she was okay. I'm thinking something bad happened and she has Stockholm syndrome or something, but obviously I didn't say that. I got a 3-word answer which read, "Thanks for the pray." Then I was immediately blocked me on everything. I've been an absolute mess for the past 3 weeks, and I don't know what to do. On one hand, I'm glad it happened before we got married. If she didn't go, would it have been happily ever after? Is this the part where I cut up her clothes for closure? Did I dodge a bullet? I am just really lost and don't know what to make of the situation. Please help. Third story. Ex-girlfriend cheated on me with her best friend forever. This happened my freshman year of high school. I was 14 years old, still getting used to a new environment. My ex was a junior at the time and had just turned 17. She was 2 years and 2 months older than me. I believe she started talking to me first, but like most high school relationships, we moved fast. I was introduced to her friend at a football game. Her friend was a tall, masculine Asian dude, we call him LAU, who graduated the year before. From the start, he never introduced himself and was mostly silent. A couple weeks passed and it was Thanksgiving break, during which I was invited to my ex's Friendsgiving. It included LAU along with a bunch of her other friends. This night was important because it was the night I asked her to be my girlfriend. However, something else happened this night, keep that in mind. During this night, LAU was acting antisocial and rude, hiding out in my ex's room even though everyone else, ex included, was outside. A couple weeks later my ex was at my house and we were talking about our first times. She had told me that she only kissed one other person, did more than kiss, and it was with someone who she was still friends with. She said that her and that person are keeping their distance from each other. I had suspected who it was, but she never told me. Now should be the time where I should explain their dynamic with each other. They were very close, had a sleepover once during our relationship. Always would hang out, went to look at Christmas lights holding hands, going to each other's houses to bake Christmas cookies, etc. Now I knew my ex was kissed LAU before, so I felt weird from the start about their dynamic. Over time I felt really strongly that the person she had done things with was her Asian friend. The day of Christmas I asked her to be honest and tell me if I was right. I was. She said that her and her friend kissed way before our relationship but agreed to only be platonic after that. I believed her. I told her she had to distance herself from her friend or else we would break up. And she kinda did. Anyways, months go by and my mental health begins to deteriorate. I felt disgusted by her for some reason and uncomfortable in general. I broke up with her because I wanted to focus on myself. I broke up with her in the beginning of that February. After we broke up, my ex was obsessing over me, posting TikToks about how much she missed me, kept writing me paragraphs, created a fake account to try and catfish me as another girl, etc. Valentine's Day comes around and she wants to give me her gift even though we were already broken up. I agree. Then when I get home I see that she had also given her friend a gift. I was seriously confused and angry. I confront her and she tells me that it was totally platonic, a Galentine's gift. Now a couple days later, my friend drops the bomb. His girlfriend, who was friends with LAU, told me that they were hooking up after we broke up. I was not that shocked but rather angry. I texted my ex that her secret was out and she's full of shit. A couple minutes later, I received a text from LAU saying he wanted to call to tell me everything because apparently I have been lied to. I call him, and he proceeded to tell me that the night I asked my ex to be my girlfriend, he had confessed to her saying that I made him jealous and that he missed what they used to have. He told me that before my ex liked me, she was in love with LAU and they had shared a made out, but LAU didn't want a relationship at the time. Well, apparently she changed her mind after seeing me, lol. Anyways, that night they made out again. I was at her house at the time, and the next day LAU came over to then fingering her and made my ex oral. Direct quote, she let me fuck her while the picture you drew her hung from her wall. Let me know if y'all want me to continue to explain how my ex reacted to me finding out. Fourth story. Went to a married male coworker for advice on how to win over a female coworker. They were having an affair the entire time. When I started at my first job out of college, a guy that had the same job as me took me under his wing and showed me the ropes. He was newly married and he and his wife had their first kid not long after. We struck up a friendship over talking about sports, and would hang out every once in a while after work or on a weekend to get drinks and watch a game. He took an interest in me being single and would ask how I felt about single female coworkers. At the time I was so focused on building my career that I had never really considered trying to find a girl at work. But there was one girl at work in particular that I found attractive and knew I had a lot in common with her. Once I said it out loud for the first time, I knew I had a crush on her and thought maybe he could be my wingman. After testing the waters a bit, I knew she didn't feel the same way and I didn't want to make things weird at work by getting rejected, so I would often just go to him to air out my feelings instead. After not getting the promotion I wanted and knowing my time at this company was going to be limited, I finally decided to go all out and make my move. We have the same favorite basketball team, so I asked her if she wanted to go watch them play just as friends. To my surprise, she said yes. It was a picture-perfect day and everything went even better than I had hoped. I knew she had a great time, so was able to parlay it into another date outing, which was also a success. We went out 4 times in total with 0 hiccups, and I was already planning a 5th one where I was going to try to make things official. Then out of the blue she tells me I was way too good to her, and she doesn't deserve me because she was a bad person. I was completely confused and heartbroken for months, not knowing why she ended it. Then come to find out, the entire time her and the male coworker had been having an on-again off-again affair since even before I started working with them. She knew I opened up to him about my feelings, so by going out with me she was trying to give him the impression that he was going to lose her to me if he didn't leave his wife, mother of his kid. Sure enough, he got super jealous and forced her to stop going out with me, and they picked back up the affair. His wife found out and left him, and both resigned from their jobs once everyone at work found out what happened.